Well, good evening and welcome to Mark and Chris's Blue Room Sessions. Don't know what we're going to do right now because actually this wasn't in the Blue Room. So anyway, this week on the Blue Room Sessions we decided to do something a bit different. When I say decided, I mean it wasn't really our choice because sometimes these things are out of your hands a little bit and you'll understand why anyway. We had to go to them, and it's not like it was a hardship or anything like that. Because seriously, what a nice guy. Luke.
Yes.
Did you enjoy?
Yes.
Your time with Brendan from Wheatus?
Yes, Chris, I did.
Yeah.
And we got to see Teenage Dirtbag being sound checked.
We did indeed. Yes. That was actually quite privileged.
That was quite cool.
It was very, very cool.
It was.
And Brendan, as it turned out, was incredibly generous with his time. He was supposed to only give us about 10 minutes, and about 45 minutes later, we had to see him being dragged, kicking and screaming out of the room to go and help with sound checks again. So thank you very much. That was amazing. Do you want to just see the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just play the videos. Yeah. Well, we decided to do something a little bit different this week on the Blue Room Sessions because not everyone can come to us. Not everyone has the time to come to us. And sometimes it's just nice for us to get out. So we did. And we came to see, you might have heard of them, they're a band called Wheatus. And this is the Wheatus frontman, Brendan.
Hello.
Hi Brendan, how you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, very well, thanks. How is your tour going?
Very well. We started in Ireland. We all got sick.
Oh.
Tour manager had to go into hospital for a lung infection, but he's alive and well, and we're back doing our thing.
Okay. So not the best start really to the tour, but
well, it's a little rough, but there's always that rough patch where we all get a little. Once the yearly flu or cold or whatever descends upon the bus, it kind of has to make its way through everybody, and then we survive after. And sometimes it gets way bad, but not this time.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's all sort of that none of us are in any danger for a start, which is always helpful. I'm guessing you're kind of used to it by now because I mean some people won't realise that you've been going as long as you have. It's like 22 years, and you formed in 1995.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have any toothpaste on my mouth?
None that I can see.
Yeah, we formed in '95. Well, I started recording the first album in 1995 as series of demos and things by myself with a 4-track and a drum machine and a bass. And sometime around late '96, early '97, we began to play out, or I began to invite musicians to be a part of it, I guess I should say, and kind of refine the process a little bit until the first album was recorded. It took us about 4 tries at recording the first album over the course of 3 years. Yeah. And then once the first album was out, I think the rest of it is kind of documented. But it's that pre-first album stuff that even I have to struggle to remember the timeline on sometimes.
Well, if it's what you say, like 4 years or so. How did it feel then, trying to get through that whole process of thinking? Did you know that there was going to be the definite outcome? It's like this is going. This is going to be picked up. This is.
No, I still don't know if there's going to be a definite outcome on anything. I've said before that every tour we do, we approach as if it could be the last, simply because it could be. Money's always tight. We don't have a lot of room for any kind of error in terms of some major cancellation or anything like that. If we got over here and then something went wrong and something got canceled, we'd be broke for a very long time. Ooh. And it would take quite a bit to get us back on track. So we work hard to avoid those scenarios, but it's always a possibility that something will get screwed up somewhere, and so for that reason we're very sort of precious about each opportunity to come over and make sure that we don't screw it up.
So is this one of the things that comes from, because you're pretty much sort of like self-responsible, aren't you?
We always kind of have been. Not much has changed about that, despite the fact that we were on a major label for a moment and had some major management also for a moment. That was a time before the internet took music to where it has taken it, and I think that none of what we learned from that time really applies. So to anything, to the future, to the period between 2004 when iTunes first happened and through to now, it's almost like we existed in two different parts of the multiverse.
Yeah.
Nothing that we learned from the first album cycle is applicable anymore, except some of the same kind of attitudes prevail at sort of multimedia companies, or I should say multinational media companies, about what you should and shouldn't do, that sort of stuff. Oddly, somebody dredged out some old VHS tape of us doing something, and I was presenting an award with Alicia Keys, and at the MTV Video Europe Awards, or MTV Europe Video Music Awards, I should say, and that was 2001, I think, or abouts. And I remembered that it kind of all came flooding back to me how much they wanted us to speak from a script. And she and I decided to throw the script out because it was really corny and awful. But it was always as if back then in that pre-2004 era, nobody at the label or management was ever happy with what we actually were. They wanted it to be something else, and we didn't get along well in that environment, so we left. But that was kind of fortunate anyway, because after the internet took music over, everything changed to our benefit in some ways. So I wouldn't have corrected our major label period if I could, because if we did have a good relationship with the label, we'd have been stuck there for the time when things really got interesting. And we were out of the major label system by the time iTunes did its thing, and YouTube and all that. We got out with our skin still intact. So yeah.
So a lot of good came from it then. So you leave the major label, start your own label.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
That sounds a lot more officiated than it actually is.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. You just set up an account with TuneCore or one of the major distributors and do it yourself. That's a label.
So, well, I never knew. If anybody wants to start their own label, that's how you do it.
Well, I've been on a major label, and I've seen the kind of mistakes they can make with a lot of money. And I feel like you're better off not getting involved with that sort of thing where there's like 27 department heads trying to decide how to spend your future royalties before you're even, you're going to wind up broke. You're going to wind up owing a lot of money. Yeah. So, yeah, we got out of that one too.
Yeah. So the breakdown of all of it really isn't very favourable in the artists.
No, it never was.
No.
It never was. And we knew that. To be fair, I knew that. And we signed a major label deal knowing that. But we also had this odd little A&R guy who convinced the president of Columbia Records that we were good to go on producing our own stuff. And I thought that would be a template moving forward to everything, but that didn't apply to videos, and it didn't apply to what people wanted us to wear and what kind of tricks they wanted to pull at radio for us to be involved in. That was all just over my head. So, and not part of naturally who we were at all. So we ditched. We got out of there.
So ditching that then and kind of going it alone, for want of a better phrase, did this open up a lot of extra creativity for you? It's kind of like
no, there was a period where I kind of got a little writer's block, to be honest, because I didn't know what was going on. It was like I was reading this story the other day on American National Public Radio about how when they first, in the 1850s, when this French inventor began to record music for the first time, recorded sound, they didn't want to play it back. They didn't have the imagination for playback. They were trying to look at the sound to see what made sound happen. Because prior to that, it was like, oh, it's the ethers or the four humors or whatever. Yeah. But this guy was trying to figure it out, and playback didn't occur to him. And that was what kind of a period we were in, lacking the imagination to move forward. And it started to clear up around 2005, 2006. What we could do, and then the writing kind of came flooding back to me. quite a bit. But for a while there, it was like, what am I writing songs for again? What are we doing? You know,
Yeah.
this kind of existential moment of like, and it wasn't because we'd been on a major label. That was the shortest part of everything we had done to that point. And although it changed our lives, it was kind of like we never got used to it, and we never became rich or anything like that. So we hadn't changed, but the music industry, for lack of a better term, was changing. So there was this like kind of like, oh, I spent all of the '90s in and out of bands that had record deals and management deals, and now all of that, everything I learned in school, is gone. You know, and it wasn't real school. It was just like street school of like doing that stuff. So yeah, we had to kind of relearn from scratch in a completely new environment. I think a lot of people did.
So basically the entire landscape just changed completely.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you're saying that a lot of your stuff now is a bit more experimental. You can afford to experiment a bit more with it.
Yeah, we always did.
Yeah.
I mean, the second record was this sort of like pop experiment, like how candy can we make an extreme sounding record? That was the sort of mission statement for album 2. And I'm pretty proud of that, what came out of it. The label didn't like it regardless, but Lemonade.
Which one was that? Hand Over Your Loved Ones.
Hand Over Your Loved Ones, yeah. Lemonade is the sort of single. Well, it wasn't really a single. There were no singles from that exactly, but that's the one that everyone gravitated towards outside of the label, and is still, I think it's number 3 on our Spotify playlist, behind Dirtbag and A Little Respect, and so that's all worked out just fine, I think. And there's a song from one of our more recent that's also in that top 5, a song called 14 from the Valentine LP, which we put that out in 2013. And now we're working on the next record. It's album 7. We have about 5 or 6 songs finished and one single from it, and the single's getting requested every night. So it in our small world, in our little sphere of what we do, what we do is working. Again, like I'm not sure if somebody else got involved, it would translate. If a label or big management tried to take over or lend their advice or start making decisions, it might all fall apart. You know, our little sustainable thing might be crushed out for some unforeseen calculus.
Well, I hope not.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's one of the reasons we don't try to tamper with it, because it kind of works. It works on a small scale, but it works. It's like, don't touch it. You know, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Sorry. So you're saying album number 7's sort of halfway there. When are you expecting album 7 to be?
Gonna try and do it by Christmas of 2017. That's the goal. And then 2018 and 19, we have quite a bit of sort of cataloging to do. I have to remix and remaster the entire catalog and try and re-release it for the 20th anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah. That's part of the mission moving forward the next 3 years, I guess. It's 2.5 actually. Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, doesn't it just?
Yeah.
So, the whole lineup that you got at the moment, you're the only original member from the band. How was the change in lineup affected the dynamic of the band? How has it affected the way that you all work?
Well, we're more capable of extreme high wire walking these days. The songs are getting a lot more progressive, and the way that we play them live is, you know, we're taking some risks, and we could fall flat on our face, and we have, but that's part of the process, you know. To have something that's very challenging to do in front of people. It's challenging to do in any environment, but when all these people are watching and they might not know the song that well, you really have to get it on the head,
Yeah.
or else, you know, it won't be received, you know. The lineup having only one original member, well, that actually goes back to when there was only one member.
Okay.
It's 1995 through 1997, there was only one member of this band, and it was me, and I was experimenting with how to make a record, how to make a band and a vision come together, and how to make it make sense. It was a lot of learning. I didn't want to involve anybody else in finishing the mission until I knew what I was talking about. And to some degree, the process is such that I spend a lot of time preparing what we're going to do alone still. Because I don't feel like wasting anybody's time or confusing them. A lot of the ideas that we work on are a little bit abstract and experimental, and we're trying to, it's still within the pop construct. That's one of the things I'm fascinated with lately. Pop used to be jazz, back in the day. I mean, the composition, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, for example, is incredibly complex and rich and interesting with harmony and it goes all over. It's a meandering song, and it's still pop. And I feel like pop has lost that. At some point, the whole like 3 chords and the truth thing that emerged from the folk movement in the 50s or maybe even the late 40s, but kind of smushed out all of that lush complexity, which I think is a bit of a shame. It doesn't have to. You can still sing along to a jazz song or something that's not necessarily jazz, but is complicated the way jazz is and interesting the way jazz is. I would quote like a band like Shudder to Think, or Fugazi was good at that, where it's something a bit more complex than Dismemberment Plan is another band that I would quote in that direction. Very, very, very interesting. Still sing-alongable ish. Pavement has elements of that as well. So I've become interested in those sorts of things, and the songs have become complex that way. In particular, one on the new album called Lullaby, which we've been working on in soundcheck and we've played a few times on this tour, is very complicated. Still a tune you can hum, nonetheless. And this lineup is very good at that, and that's one of the reasons I spend a lot of time alone. It took me a year to learn how to sing and play Lullaby by myself.
Really?
At the same time, yeah.
Wow.
And I didn't show it to any of the band until I was finished with that, because they would have been confused by the half-bakedness of it, So I waited a very long time on that and showed them, and then they recorded it, and then even now we're still learning this composition in soundcheck, to the point where every once in a while, if the crowd is up for it, we'll pull it out. And one time so far out of 5 or 6, we did not get it right. We screwed it up. So it's still we're still without a net on some of it. But that's the discovery process still, I don't want to make the same record over and over again. I want to find out how to make a new one.
Yeah, you want to advance, you want to move on, you want to create new soundscapes. And
Discovery, yeah.
But I mean, if you spent a year going through that before playing it to anyone, that's dedication. That's come on, that's ridiculous.
It wasn't really me being dedicated. It was me saying like, wow, I can't do this yet. How come I can't do this? I've been playing music for a long time. I should be able to do this. Let's again. Let's see if I can get it. And I finally did. But one of the things that inspired it is the bass luthier Carl Thompson in New York City. He's a brilliant jazz musician as well. He sat down for me one time, and we were just, he doesn't make instruments for just everybody. He really wants to know what makes you tick before he gets involved in your project. And he made us a pair of basses, but first and foremost, he invited me down to his shop a few times, and I didn't really understand what it was all about. He just wanted to play music, And I had to kind of like admit to him, like, I'm not a really trained musician. He's like, well, you don't have to be, but you have to know how to do this. And he played on his own fretless 4-string bass. He played Somewhere Over the Rainbow and sang it, and he changed keys like every 2 chords. And he seamless, flawless delivery of this thing. And I thought, wow, I really don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm not. He's right. I don't know what I'm doing until I can figure that out. So I made my own project on that with this new record, and it did take me a year to figure out how to play and sing one song, and that's just those are the limits of my understanding of music.
So there's always going to be someone else that can either influence you or open your eyes to another area that you haven't gone into before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that can keep you driving forward, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, there's always going to be an extra bit of inspiration somewhere out there.
Yeah. But inspiration's a word that gets tossed around a lot. I feel like discovery is the word. Like, when you discover that you can do something, discover how to do something new, that's the fun part for me.
Wow. Seriously, I still can't get over the whole year thing. No, is that frustrating though? Is there a level of frustration?
Sure, at times I had to break it
sort
down.
of go through it and go, look, right, I've had enough with this one. I can't do it.
Well, I'll just videotape sections of it and watch myself getting it wrong or getting it right and go, okay, let me see if I can merge these two moments where I was correct, where it sounded like I wanted to, or sounded like it was in my head, and just repeating the process until you find that you have a new skill.
So that's one of the things I always find is most frustrating is the whole, as you say, getting it from what it sounds like in your head into the actual instrument that you're playing. Like, is it going to sound the same when I play it as it did when I thought about it in the first place? 9 times out of 10, no.
Right.
Absolutely nothing like it.
Well, you can also like, let's say you're the best in the world at getting something.
But sometimes it's worked out all right.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's say that you're very, very good at doing that, and that you are fluid and okay. Well, I have this in my head. I think Dr. Dre is one of those people who can say, "I have this in my head. I know what I'm gonna do. I know how it's gonna come out of here." I'm not 100% sure about that, but he just strikes me as somebody who has a very clear vision to reality process. Yeah. I've gone through situations where I thought I knew exactly how this was going to come out if I just set this kick drum sound, this bass sound, this is how it's going to be, and it's going to be great. And I was so wrong, but I was right about something else that I didn't understand yet. So it's kind of like the universe is telling you, like, I know you think you know what I am, but I'm going to show you for a moment through your own mistakes that I'm actually something else. And that's something you have to be ready for too, and be sort of like drop your ego and just say, well, the molecules and the electrons and the quarks, and they don't want me to do this. That's not how they work. Yeah. I think I'm wrong about how they work. So, yeah.
So sometimes it's good to be at the mercy of another force, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how was your relationship with all of your music then? If you're doing album number 7, like we say, you've a 22-year history of Wheatus. How was your relationship? Are you still happy with everything?
Sometimes I look back on the old records and I'm like, I can hear the limits of myself and my ability to put the project together. I can also hear some immature ideas lyrically and stuff like that, where I'm just kind of like, wow, why did I ever think that?
Because at the time,
when you're 27 or you're 22 or whatever, you're just kind of like, you might be an idiot, you might actually be a dunce, and you're still writing songs. You might even get a record deal, but you're still an idiot, So I feel like that was part of my experience, certainly.
So I do want to ask you about this. And I know you probably get asked about this all the time, but we have to sort of ask about Teenage Dirtbag.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I didn't know whether... Okay, because it's in Loser, right? Mm-hmm. It's not American Pie. It's not in American Pie. People think it's in American Pie. It's not. It's in Loser. Did that come before or after the film? Was it chosen for the film, or did you write it for?
It was not. It came well before the film.
Okay.
The film was at the end of our... just when it was about to be released, somebody was like, hey, somebody came from Columbia TriStar and said we're releasing a film and it would go good with the song would go good with the film, go well with the film, so they put it in.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Were you happy that it was that song though? I mean, or
Sure.
Is there, and you're still sort of.
Oh yeah, I'm
like
quite
every day thankful for that.
I'm
kind
quite
of thing.
proud of Teenage Dirtbag.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still sing it with heartfelt every night, you know, and it's never gotten old or bothered me or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Well, we were stood out there during the sound check and everything, listening to it. It's like yes.
Did it sound okay?
Oh God, yeah. really enjoying it. Really enjoying it. But the thing is, I mean, there's some bands that go okay, like Kings of Leon recently. They had this whole part where they completely had enough of Sex on Fire. People were asking Sex on Fire at the gigs. They were just like, right, not going to play this, not going to play it, you know. And they had like a hiatus from Sex on Fire.
You know
and
what?
And then after a period, they came back and said, okay, we're kind of okay with this song again, you know, just because people keep asking for it, and you know, when you have a bit of time off from something,
Well,
having said that, they haven't come back to Wickham yet.
yeah, I mean, there's also the sort of thing like, and you can't really blame people for it. It's that some people only know one song from a band. I mean, who am I to say, oh, you should have more time to invest in my back catalog? Or remember, like, come on. Like, some people will do that, but you're lucky to have them. It's not the other way around, you know?
Yeah.
I could see if you got stuck on one song, especially I think that's quite a high song in his vocal range. And I could see how beating the hell out of it all the time would be dangerous for your vocal abilities. You could really get some problems that would last a lifetime if you sang the same damn notes every night over and over again.
I've tried it at open mic a few times. It's actually quite difficult.
Yes, quite a high register. But so, you know, I don't know the Kings of Leon personally, but I can kind of understand where they're coming from that. I wouldn't do that myself. I would try and rework it to be something else that was still interesting to me. If I had lost, which has never happened fortunately, but if I had lost the passion to sing Teenage Dirtbag for some reason, wow, that's what a nightmare. Like, and having to do it. You know. I think if your biggest song is a cover, that could be a little bit complicating. That you just at some point would run out of the desire to do it because it isn't your voice.
Yeah.
So.
That's a fair point. And let's be honest, Teenage Dirtbag as well is it's one of those songs that kind of defined a point in time. Like it was. Is it fair to say like a cultural kind of, you know, cultural definition? Because it was like a movement of people that identified with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's somewhat true.
Yeah. So what point did you write it from? Because
well,
I've always looked at it as kind of like a very positive, very so like strong song, because it's someone who knows like exactly who they are in themselves, like, and is kind of okay with it. That's how I look at it. I don't know if that's true or not.
There's a bit of the reality is there's a bit of suicidal tendency to it, because the music you listen to when I was a kid you could get your ass kicked, you could get expelled from school, you could get ostracized by teachers and parents and clergy and whatever else. I mean, if you were making that kind of a statement at an early age, you were bound to pay some sort of a price for it, and I did. But this was in the 1980s. You know, this was like a very different time. A lot of paranoia about Satan and all this nonsense. And, you know, immature adults are difficult people. They don't know how to run society very well, so they screw it up, and that's what the 80s were. Still is happening in different ways, but you know, when I was 10 years old, I had a tape case full of AC/DC records, and there was this like ritual satanic homicide in the woods behind my house, and teenagers were involved, and they killed their friend. They lured him in or something like that and killed their friend, and it was all over drugs or whatever. Who knows? No one's ever going to really know the full story, I don't think. But the guy got arrested with an AC/DC shirt on. And, you know, parents and teachers were freaked. I mean, like, absolutely bugging out. So I when you would say you were a dirtbag, you were saying that about the music you listened to, and unfortunately, there was this other association with satanic homicide amongst teenagers. So it was like,
which clearly AC/DC are responsible for legally, for legal reasons. No, they're not.
yeah, no. I mean, what a mess. Like, give me a break. You know, perhaps parents sucked. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So album number 7, hopefully out by Christmas this year.
Indeed.
How many days have you got left on the tour?
20.
Wow.
Yeah.
So by the time this goes out, 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, 16 days left on the tour. Wow, jeez. And then just finish the album up, have a bit of time to yourself. Yeah?
No, there's a lot of work to do over the summer. Going to
God,
Australia and all kinds of stuff, so, yeah.
So just getting your head down, getting on with it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Have you all enjoyed this so far then, this tour? Apart from the bug and everything?
Yeah, very much so.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we get to see you again next year as well.
Thank you.
With album number 7 and possibly album number 8 in the works as well.
Always
Always.
another.
Yeah, so Brendan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Much appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you again later on this evening for the gig. By the way, 4 days ago, if you're listening to this now, you missed it. Ha. So Brendan, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Thank you. So there you go. That was the vast majority of just the majority of the chat that we had with Brendan B. Brown from Wheatus, who was just, the nicest guy, which was brilliant. So thank you very much to Brendan. Thank you very much to Mike Doyle as well for facilitating the whole thing, which was, we couldn't have done it without you guys. If you would like to get your stuff on the show, because we play music from local acts. That's kind of one of our things. Send it on MP3 or WAV format to livemusic@wickhamsound.org.uk, and then we'll just have a listen to it and get it on the show at some point in the coming weeks, because that's kind of the point, right? It's part of the whole format of this show. It'd be stupid to not do it now. Anyway, thank you very much again to Brendan. Such a nice guy. And pleasure to meet you, I've got to say. Thank you very much to West Star Rehearsals for supporting the show, even though nothing was actually recorded here this week. But we're not saying no. So, but yes, thank you very much, West Star Rehearsals. Thank you very much for watching this. And if you would like to see last week's video, which was Molyneux, click up on that side. In that. And then if you want to see Luke, what are we linking up from Wheatus up here? Tipsy. You're going to link Tipsy up, yeah, from the Wheatus official.
Yes.
Okay, that's going to be in this side. So if you want to see that, click there. If you want to see Molyneux from last week, click there. And if you want to do something else, we're not stopping you. It's a free world, right? But click one of those two because they're great.